Hey, what's up guys? Dizzy Nuts here. How you guys doing? As you can see today we are here at Magic Kingdom and Halloween's going on, so I'm going to show you how I shot this. Pretty cool, right? Now we're going to revisit a technique which we had spoken earlier, which is called bracketing. And bracketing consists of where you take the same shot but at different exposures, and you use this when you take stuff, for example, that has like neon or something that's stuff that's very lit, and the other stuff is somewhat dark, like the pumpkins. So we're going to be using that technique today, which consists of taking 3 shots of different types of exposures, and then we combine them together. So let's go ahead and get a little closer and talk about the equipment that we're going to need to take those shots. So when we're talking about equipment for these types of shots, basically any camera and any lens will do. As long as you'll be able to set your exposure to different types of settings, you should be fine. Now check your camera's manual, because many times they include a feature which is called AEB, which is automatic exposure bracketing, and that will do the 3 shots for you automatically. So check your camera to see if you have that option. Now just for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you quickly the AEB, turning on the feature in the camera, but if you don't have it, what we're going to do today for this exercise is actually take the photo using the manual settings, which is taking 1 photo underexposed, a normal shot at normal exposure, and 1 overexposed, just for the sample of the video so you know what's being done. The last component that we're going to need to be able to do the bracketing is actually software or a computer that's able to do the bracketing for us. And we can use many softwares out there. There's Photomatix, there's one even by Google. But for today's exercise, I'm going to be using the one that comes with Lightroom, which is the HDR option inside of it. Okay, so when we talk about HDR always gets a bad rap because everybody thinks it's something that means, like, you know, really fake and, you know, exploding colors and stuff like that. But HDR, if done correctly, it can look really nice. It can actually bring out a bunch of details of your photograph. So do not discard it as something that that it will damage your photos, because it really won't. HDR means high dynamic range, which means that you're able to bring out the darkest darks and the brightest highs and put them together in a photo, which then gives that really cool effect where everything looks nice and sharp. For taking 3 shots, I guess it's pretty standard that we're going to be using our tripod for these type of shots. Now another thing that you want to bring as for equipment is the shutter release, or at least put the timer on the camera, that way it doesn't move or shake when you're taking these 3 shots. The settings are pretty straightforward, and the first one is that we're going to be shooting in manual mode, and the reason for that is that we want to be able to force the camera to shoot underexposed as well as overexposed. And if we try doing that on automatic mode, it will not happen, because the camera is always going to try to compensate one of the components of what makes the exposure to try to fix it. So again, we're going to be shooting this in manual mode or either aperture mode, as long as we lock down some of the other components like the ISO and the f-stop. Okay, the second thing is to make sure you're consistent with your settings, and what I mean by that is that if we're going to be doing multiple shots, make sure that the f-stop is the same for all the shots, because we don't want that to vary on the photo. Now what we'll probably be doing is adjusting the shutter speed, but make sure the other 2 components are the same all through the 3 shots. Make sure you take all these shots in RAW format. Now I've mentioned this before, RAW is all the information possible from the photo that you are taking.
Yeah, because I have 2, because one of them, like, you know when it pops and then
Okay, so let me show you the spot that I used for that pumpkin, and it is actually coming over this way. And the reason that I picked this one is that it's like direct line with the castle. The other ones that are near the hub are great, but they're sort of like in an angle. So we're gonna go in here to the hub area, and I'm gonna show you which one I used for that shot. And here it is. Okay, so the cool thing of the shot is obviously you can see you have the pumpkin here on the right, and you got the Cinderella castle here on the left. Now for the shot that I actually did it the other way around, which is this way. But after I saw the photo, I wasn't really too happy with this pole right here. So if you got a chance, do it on this side, because that way you got a totally unobstructed Cinderella castle, and the pumpkin right here. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use the AEB feature on the Canon camera. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the menu here in the queue here. And you'll see it's going to bring up all the options which you can touch the screen or, you know, move around and change them. And we want to go ahead and touch that or select it. And by moving the dial left or right, we control how much exposures is going to be separated from the original one. Now I have the camera set to 3, but you can do 5 or 7. But for today's simplicity, we're going to be doing 3, which I think is more than enough for what we're going to be using it. Okay, so moving the dial, we're going to see that we can adjust that setting there, and we're just going to put it on the 1. That way it's just one stop underneath, one in the middle, which is normal, and the other one overexposed. Okay, so I'm going to hit now the button here to see the live view so you guys can see what we're shooting. And you're going to see that we have those 3 little dots, which means that the camera is going to take 3 shots at those exposures. Now I like also to turn on the option for the timer, because that way I don't have to press the button each time. And if I put the timer on for 10 seconds or 2 seconds, it'll actually take each photo for me, and I don't have to you know, take care of hitting the shutter button each time. So I'm going to set it to 2 seconds. Most probably your camera has for 10. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the live view here. I'm going to go ahead and press it. It's going to go ahead and wait 2 seconds and takes all 3 shots, one right after the other. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, here's the first shot, which is the -1, and it takes it in that order: -1, 0, and +1. And here you can see everything's a little darker, and that is going to be great because it's going to bring out some of the darker shadows that are on the castle and even on the pumpkin here on the right. The next one is actually 0, and you can see it's a little bit better exposed, which is basically like a normal shot. And finally, the last one is the +1, which everything is just a tad overexposed, and that helps bring out the details in some of the darker areas, like let's say the pumpkin and stuff like that. Now for sake of this exercise, I'm doing this during the day, because during the night you probably won't be able to see the screen because the resolution of this phone isn't too good. But I just want to more or less show you how you would do the settings when you're doing them with the AUB. Now for our cameras that do not have this feature, we're going to go ahead and do this manually now, not using the automatic feature. So I'm going to go to show you how to take those 3 shots without using the AUB feature on your camera. So the first thing we're going to do is actually we're going to make sure that we lock down some of the components that we don't want to be automatically adjusted by the camera. And the first one is going to be the ISO. For example, right now you see the ISO is auto. We want to go ahead and put that on a fixed auto ISO. In this case, I'm going to set it to 100, depending on your situation. If you want to bring that to 100, 200, whatever works for you is fine. Just make sure that it is consistent among all 3 shots. Now that's going to give us the advantage that we only need to juggle the shutter speed to be able to control the exposure on our photos. And I'll explain. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the live view here. Okay, so here we have our shot, and you'll see that if I press the shutter halfway button, halfway, it's going to automatically bring up the exposure indicator right here on the bottom, and you see it says it's overexposed. So I'm going to roll it down, so I bring it down to the 1 that's to the left, and I'm going to take the shot. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to take another shot, but I am going to adjust it so the exposure indicator is right there in the middle, right here. And I'm doing this by adjusting the shutter speed and pressing the shutter halfway down so it could determine what's the exposure. Okay, the final one, I'm going to take another one, but this time I'm going to keep on rolling until I get a +1, and everything's going to look a little bit overexposed, which is fine. And I'll do the same thing, take my photo. And there we go. So now when we go back to our 3 shots, even though it doesn't show the -1, the 0, and the +1, we know that these are our 3 shots, because you can see here you got one that's a little dark, this one's pretty good, and this one is a little bit overexposed. So that is how you take your bracketed shots without using the AEB feature. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select the 3 photos using the control key. I'll do right click, and I'm going to go to photo merge and select HDR. And I usually leave the default settings here, like auto align, which automatically will, you know, if for any reason I move the tripod between photos, or if I took it handheld and that comes into play, it will try to do its best. I always shoot with the tripod when it comes to HDR, even day shots, because that way I reduce the risk of the computer not being able to auto align the images. And auto settings, basically it'll go ahead and select the, you know, the exposure as to what it thinks
you know what it should be, but you can always go ahead and change them later. And for these settings here, you can go ahead and play with them and see which one looks best to the result that you like. Now again, when it comes to stuff like this, always look for the result that you want it to be. Do not try to copy other people or something that you saw and I said I want to look like that. No, do it what you like to see, because eventually it's going to be your photo. So I'm going to hit merge and let that run in the background. Now in the case of Lightroom, just like when you're exporting it, you'll see that it's doing a process up here and it will show up down here on your taskbar. Now I already have done this process for the sake of the video, and here is the final result of the image. Now it went ahead and already did these settings for me, but if you still want to go ahead and tweak these, you can. For example, I can go ahead and download the stuff a little bit and, you know, bring certain things out and stuff like that. And that is how you do HDR on your computer. Now again, this is awesome for night shots and neon and, you know, buildings that have lighting and, you know, like the streets of Hollywood studios and stuff like that. So have fun with it, experiment, and again, when it comes down to the result of the HDR picture, do what you like and have fun with it.
Oh, this new walkway looks awesome. Look at this. Now they still haven't finished the moat, but the walkway itself, look how wide this is. Look how wide that walkway is now. Awesome. Okay guys, so that's it here from Magic Kingdom. Hopefully this video of how to do bracketed shots and how to shoot the Halloween pumpkin so it doesn't come out overexposed or underexposed, you can use when you come to your visit here to Magic Kingdom. So again, this is the first time watching these videos. My name is Dizzy Nuts and I do theme park photography and food reviews inside the park. So if you like what you saw, feel free to hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified the next time the videos come out. Until then guys, stay awesome. See ya.